What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday, July 26, 2017, and it's been 2,879 days since the U beat FSU in football. Got the old specs today, giving the eyes a rest wearing the contacts, so you may see these from time to time. So, that being said, most of the news today is probably going to be football. There's a couple of baseball and basketball news, but most of it is going to be football. That tells you football is coming around the corner and it's getting into full swing. So you'll probably be hearing more about that. First of all, a good ending to Lucky Whitehead, the former Dallas Cowboy receiver who was released by the Cowboys after he was allegedly accused of shoplifting, as I mentioned in my last video. And come to find out that it was mistaken identity, even though the real person who they're looking for or who was originally pulled over by the police gave Lucky Whitehead's full name, address, and social security number. I think those were the three items. I know the social security number and the full name were the was the information that they gave the police. So that was an odd situation in itself. But since Lucky Whitehead was able to prove that he was not there at the time of the alleged incident, then, you know, he's not in trouble for that. Um, so in that particular situation, it looks like he was unlucky. But he has luckily been picked up by the Jets, and I don't know if that's really lucky. It's the Jets, so um, we don't know how that goes. But at least he's on a team and he's gonna make some money, so he's gonna be okay with that. And again, I think because he's going to the Jets, he was probably going to get released by the Cowboys anyway. So it was good that he was picked up as soon as he was. I think the Jets released a another receiver who I think just didn't have the caliber of Lucky Whitehead. So that's what happened there. Just to put a bow on this particular situation, the Cowboys have tried to do everything they can to make it seem like they just didn't release him based upon the last incident that he was accused of, and they're lying. That's the reason why they let him go, even though I think they were going to let him go eventually. Um, they just made quick note of it or quick move of it once he got in trouble or once the incident happened with the alleged shoplifting. So that's all they had to do is just say that they were going to release him anyway. But you can't say that now, can you? I think they're going to let him go through training camp and what have you. And if there was an injury or if maybe if Lucky was able to step up, then they would try to keep him. Instead, they let him go based upon what happened with the police, and that made him look bad. But they also probably did it because of all the incidents that they've had with Ezekiel Elliott and whomever else. And so they wanted to look like they were putting their foot down about players. And so this is what they're doing. If Lucky Whitehead was Dez Bryant, there's a possibility that they would not have released him. They would have investigated it even further to make sure that if it was a real incident, then that would be the case. Even if it was legitimate, even if it was a real incident that might have been committed, let's say Lucky Whitehead was Dez Bryant, they would have just let the NFL decide whether to suspend him or not. They definitely would not have released him. But as I said before, and as I believe they were going to release him, and they just got it expedited because of this last incident, and now they look like they have egg on their face, and instead of just saying, "Well, we're going to release him anyway," but you can't do that because they weren't going to do it yesterday or the day before when they did it. They probably going to wait till it goes through training camp to make sure they didn't need him, and that's why they did it. And that's when they would have done it. So you never know about the business of football and keeping players. Hey, it is what it is. But hey, don't sit here and try to lie about it because now you got egg on your face. So hopefully they won't need a receiver uh, because Lucky Whitehead won't be available. Um, Real quick, but to congratulations to Lucky Whitehead for finding a team to play for. Now let's just keep you. Hopefully, you stay lucky and get things done. Quick basketball news: Brandon Knight tore his ACL for the Phoenix Suns. I think he was point guard. He had also been part of trade rumors, possibly to get Carmelo Anthony from the Knicks. I think he might have been uh, trade bait for that, maybe even for Kyrie Irving from Cleveland. But now that he's torn his ACL, the Suns don't have they have one less trade option to go with or to use. So Brandon Knight will be out for the season with a torn ACL for the Phoenix Suns. The Portland Trailblazers trade Alan Crabb to the Nets, to the Brooklyn Nets, for Andrew Nicholson, and they're going to buy out Andrew Nicholson, and that way they can use that money uh, towards an. I think they get some kind of exemption to buy him out, and they can use that money towards an exemption. By buying him out, that's less money that's on the payroll. And again, Portland is still in the running for trying to get Carmelo Anthony, and so that extra exemption money could be could be possible to do that, or Portland could just be lowering their salary, their team salary because it is pretty high. So, and compared to last year where they just had a first round loss, of course, to the eventual world champions, still it's it's working itself. So Portland's either reducing their salary or they're reducing it so that they can get Carmelo Anthony. If that happens, we'll let you know. Baseball news: Steven Strasburg is going to the disabled list for the Washington Nationals. He's a pitcher for the Washington Nationals. Uh, as of late, he's not been playing full seasons. I think his last 4 seasons he has been on the disabled list for one reason or another. Um, and so the Nationals, if they're trying to make a playoff run, they may need somebody else. They may be in the running to try to trade for Yu Darvish. Who knows? But right now, they may be in a bit of a pickle. There's no Steven Strasburg, um, at least for the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how that goes with the Nationals. Um, Novak Djokovic. Speaking of people that are out, Novak Djokovic, one of the best tennis players in the world, is going to be out for the rest of the year because of a bad elbow. He retired from one of his from his last match at Wimbledon because of the elbow, and he finally decided to just go ahead and take a rest. Uh, and he'll do it for the rest of the year, so that's pretty much the next 6 months. And it might be a smart move because the same thing happened this day last year where Roger Federer took the rest of the year off, and you see what it's done for him. I think in the Australian he did pretty well. The French he did pretty well, and of course Wimbledon. I mean, he didn't play in the French, and it did wonders for him by being able to take a year. I mean, to play in Wimbledon and win Wimbledon. So um, hopefully it's a good thing for Djokovic, but it also give him a chance to, once he gets the elbow healed, to get reacquainted with his new coaches and get back that zest for trying to win Grand Slams. So good luck to Novak for that. He's one of my favorite tennis players. In college football, Nick Saban uh, has his own ideas on how the playoffs should go for college football. And then, strangely enough, I believe it. And I like what he's thinking about. He says Power Five conference teams should all their games should be played versus Power Five conference teams. That makes sense to me. I agree totally wholeheartedly. But his reasoning behind it is when it's time to figure out who's going to make the playoffs, you can do like a rankings or RPI like they do for college basketball, because everybody in college basketball you're playing a Division 1 team, and Division 1A team. Even though there's 320 teams, you still playing Division 1A team. So when they're doing the rankings and the RPIs, it's legitimate. So even though Nick is saying do Power Five, now that I think about it, if they're all Division 1A, there's 120 of those. Then as long as they're playing those, and they're okay. So those one double A's, and every now and then there's a couple of Division II teams that pop in there, those should not count. They should not even be on your schedule. I mean, you're that prestigious of a program, and I understand that you have. I mean, even when you get other teams to come in to get an easy win, you're paying them for them to come there. So how is it really benefiting you? You help out those teams by doing that because they get a nice paycheck and hopefully they stay healthy and hopefully your team stay healthy. And then the other thing that Saban was saying is if you beat somebody 45-7 or 60-0, that's one double A. What do you really gain from it? Maybe your backups, your second string and third string get a little bit of playing time, but really, you can find a couple of teams that are 120th or 119th and play them. So I agree with him in that particular instance, and it gives a nice ring to it. And if all the teams are playing 1A teams or Power 5 conference teams, then the excitement for the playoffs and that sort of thing raises because those teams are playing quality teams. Also, with the ratings at what have you, he kind of mentioned that throw away the 6 wins, get you a bowl game because if you focus on teams playing good teams or 1A teams, then you're focusing on the playoffs. And so he even mentioned that, hey, you take the top 12 and you have a playoff for it. So that basically the top 4 teams would get a bye. So he kind of has an idea with that. And everybody else, they're just going to play in those bowl games or maybe even do away with them. But you put more focus on the playoffs and the run for the playoffs. And so that would be helpful. He's thinking about playing 10 conference games. And then I guess maybe you have a conference championship, that's 11. And then if you have the playoff games, you got 2 or 3 games. So that puts you at 12, 13, 14 games instead of 15 or 16. Not a bad idea. So I think somewhere down the line, they'll eventually get to that point. Uh, you know how everybody tries to make money off of whatever is the status quo right now, or the given thing right now. So they have to get around to it. Remember when they had the BCS, they said there would never be a playoff, and then they had a playoff. So um, Nick Saban is all about increasing that and making it even bigger. And I think you make football more popular when you do that. So eventually down the line, I think if you even get a 16-team playoff, you make it even more uh, important. People say, well, what about the bowl games? If you make it 32-team playoff like they do in one double A and one double A, then you can have those bowl games or those current bowl sites. They can host one of those playoff games. So it's doable. You just have to want to do it because there ain't nothing really to figure out. I already have it figured out. So kudos to Nick Saban for putting it out there, and I guess his name carries more weight, so that really helps out in that particular instance. The Chargers trade for Cardale Jones. Cardale Jones had dropped to 4th on the depth chart in Buffalo. They traded for Cardale Jones for a conditional 7th-round pick, so I guess you're really not losing anything when you're getting Cardale Jones in the 7th round. But you have to ask yourself, Cardale Jones was dropped 4th in the depth chart behind T.J. Yates and whoever else is the quarterback in Buffalo, Tyrod Taylor, and I forget who the third guy is. So I don't know. Chargers just probably looking for somebody on the cheap, and so that's why they're bringing him in. We'll see how it goes. The other day they worked out Robert Griffin III. Yeah, they said they liked what they saw, but maybe the asking price was too much, or maybe they just telling the media whatever, and they really didn't like him. But who knows? Could have been for a dollar amount or what have you. I don't know how Cardale fits this system better than Robert Griffin III, but hey, I'm not the Chargers, and I wasn't at the workout. Um, Still, the bottom line is the best free agent quarterback out there is to me is Colin Kaepernick. So I'm not here to debate it anymore. I'm just saying, and I think he can learn any system if you bring him in there. And like I said, I think he can play. I think he can still play. So we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there. My last note of today is Joe Flacco will be out about 1 week, according to the Baltimore Ravens. He's been having his back has been acting up on him, and so they say he's going to be out a week. I don't think it's anything to be alarmed about because if he's only supposed to be out a week, it's not a big deal. But the season doesn't start for another 6 weeks. So he can take as much time as he can. He probably would play the equivalent of one game the entire preseason. So technically, he could be out for the next month, and then he'll play in one preseason game and be okay. So right now they say 1 week, yeah, maybe 1 to 2 weeks at worst, 4 to 6 weeks, but still 4 to 6 weeks still puts him back before uh, the first game of the season. And if it becomes any more serious, Colin Kaepernick is available as well. But I think it's going to be okay. I think they're just doing it as a precaution. But when you're talking about back issues and a quarterback and an older quarterback, you got to be careful. So uh, I'm sure the Ravens will take their time concerning their franchise quarterback, who they pay a good amount of money to. Um, that was 2 days worth of information. I just thought I want to get that out there before it became real old news. So just putting that out there. If anything changes on the news front, you'll be the first to know. In the meantime, take care of yourself. God bless, and free Colin Kaepernick. Peace.